Alright, that was the intro for the show. Let's go ahead and let's get started now. Forge Gang! Let's go! This is your host with the most, the Warhammer, the Forge Master, coming at you with American Geopolitics, or Warhammer Geopolitics. And for this time, I will be doing the state of California. I will be doing California now. Now, I wish I had taken some notes here. Unfortunately, I haven't. Should have taken some notes. Alright, let's just get into it, bros. Alright, so California was first settled by native Amerindian tribes, and the Amerindian tribes didn't really do much of anything to the place. The Spaniards came, they came relatively late. On the very southern part of California in the 1500s, there were missions and establishments, but nothing much else until the end of the 1600s. The 1700s, more Franciscan and Jesuit and Dominican friar missions were set up on the west coast. Ranches or rancheros and stuff was set up. But I don't think that Spain, except in the south, the very south of California, which was settled up with Spaniards and some Mexican settlers and people from all over the Spanish Empire, but like all the way up in the interior, the Spanish really didn't settle much. Now, in the Mexican period, there was a lot of anti-clerical backlash. The church had a lot of dominant influence on the colonial economy, and the Spanish system was highly bureaucratic. It was a lot like the Roman imperial system. The Mexican government had to do a lot to basically decentralize and debureaucratize. But the downside of that was the Mexican government was very unstable. It was very corrupt. After Texas broke off from Mexico, the Mexican government was a lot more concerned about letting in American settlers. But in 1846, 1847, the American settlers came. Some Mormons came over with Brigham Young, and some of them settled in California after the Mexican War. But other than some rancheros and some minor gold discoveries and platinum discoveries, nothing much in the Mexican period. So in 1847, 1846, American ranchers or American settlers rebelled. And they overthrew the Mexican authorities, and they established the Bear Flag Republic. And very soon, an American naval squadron arrived in San Francisco Bay. And, a bunch of American soldiers came in and occupied and supported the Bear Flag Rebellion. And in 1847, there was a military occupation of Baja, California. With the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, California was annexed to the United States. And in 1849, gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill. And you have the California Gold Rush. So in 1850, California was added into as a state. California was set up as kind of a large square-shaped country that was square-shaped state that was slightly bent. It's typically known as the Bear Flag Republic or the Sunrise State, I think. That might be Arizona. I'm not entirely for sure. So from the get-go, California was a very successful agricultural state, especially after it was annexed into the United States. You have the Californian Gold Rush, where you have mainly Americans from New England, from the Midwest, from the Deep South, pretty much all over the United States, and also from the still settling and developing places like Iowa and Wisconsin and Minnesota, New England, New York, Virginia, the Carolinas, the entire Midwest, Maine and stuff. You have some people coming from other countries. Australians, Chileans, Argentines, English, British, Irish, Germans, and Scandinavians and such, and Greeks and Italians coming to California during the Californian Gold Rush. And a lot of people striking rich and losing it. By the end of the 1850s, it's completely over with. And then in 1863, 1864, silver is discovered in Nevada. So Nevada becomes a state in 1864. Already in the 1850s, you have paddle boat steamships, and then later steam-powered ships crisscrossing around South America. And this continues until the Panama Canal is built or the Transcontinental Railroad is completed in 1869. So the Industrial Revolution comes to California in the 1850s and the early 1860s. And California benefits greatly. It benefits tremendously from the economic boon of first the California Gold Rush, then the paddle boat businesses and business lines, and then the Transcontinental Railroad and the telegraph. The Pony Express is founded in 1860. There's a lot of good business with that. In 1863, 1864, the Transcontinental Telegraph is completed, and finally it is now possible to communicate within a matter of hours across the entire United States. In 1869, the Transcontinental Railroad is completed. So California benefits greatly as an agricultural state. A lot of apple orchards are built. A lot of oranges and stuff are grown. There is a lot of adaptation from the Mexican ranchero thing and the impresario system. It looks like California... Oh yeah, the port system of California is very important to talk about. Like, the Californios, the original Mexican Californios, they're completely overpopulated. You know. Also, from the 1840s to the 1860s, there is some wars with Indian tribes, from enemy Indian red-skin tribes, like the Mexicans and stuff, like various, not Mexicans, various Indian tribes and stuff. Well, you know, even during the Mexican-American War, there was a lot of fighting against the Mexican Californios. Like, they had some cavalry units, and they basically fought like, it was the 16th century or whatever, and they were completely outgunned, outmaneuvered, and just superior modern tech overpowered them. So that was the end of them. There were some Indian wars in the 1860s and 1870s, but once the Native Americans are brought to bear, California develops into a major, powerful economic center. Like, the maritime history of California is very important. The Union, or the United States Navy and military, has a huge naval squadron docked all across the California coast, especially in Los Angeles and San Francisco. There's a lot of dockyards, and there's a lot of work and commercial and maritime trade networks and stuff around California. So Southern California is mostly dry. But there's a lot of bays, and there's a lot of good ports, or places to make ports and stuff. Northern California is more mountainous and more wooded and stuff, you could say. And so California, which has its, you know, from the 1850s and onwards, California developed, it built up, and it became a very important economic superpower. California has the second most important universities and colleges, and the second most important economic center in the United States after New York. So, California State University and the University of California and the California Community College is the biggest university campus outside of the Northeast. Most important educational campus outside of the entire Northeast. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about that apple cake pizza. This has nothing to do with that. Alright, so anyways, let's see here. Let's see here, California Trail, the Pony Express. Okay, so in the 1950s, there was an important aqueduct project in California. So California was mostly an agricultural state in the 1800s. But in the 1900s, well, the very early 1900s, a major hydroelectric dam project and a major reservoir and canal project was done. And once this great aqueduct was built, all of Southern California was able to get water from Eastern California, where there's a bunch of like ice cap mountains that produce water and stuff, and Southern California was extremely arid. So after the great aqueduct system was built, California could fully industrialize. So beginning around the 1890s, the first major plants and factories were built. Another thing too, Thomas Edison invented the kaleidoscope camera, and that was the first motion picture detective camera system. And when that happened, almost immediately from the early 1910s, right around before World War I, really before World War I, but from that time onwards, Hollywood became an important center, an important world center of the motion picture industry. And then Walt Disney, you know, he had his Disney Studios set up in Hollywood. MGM, Warner Brothers, all of these, virtually all of the major mountain pictures or whatever it's called, like virtually all of the major television studios and movie pictures and stuff were put up in Hollywood. So that was very important as well. Let's see here, the California Project. Agriculture is one of the prominent elements. Yeah, so the first paddle steamer, let's see here, yeah. Alright, since 1945, California has been a center of electric equipment, computers, machinery, transportation. Oh yeah, Stanford University is the most important university outside of New England in the entire United States. With the exception of the Northeast, the University of California is very highly appraised and very highly academically achieved. So there's also that. California is also the center of the American aviation industry. From very early on, from like basically the turn of the 20th century, with air balloons, with blimps and dirigibles, and then airships, and finally airplanes. and just all different types of air traffic and aerial technology. California has been very important in the 20th century in the development of military aviation, maritime aviation, and just all different types of aircraft. The United States Armed Forces have utilized California, especially during World War II. The Californian coastline was really heavily used by the U.S. Navy in the Battle of the Pacific. California was a major contributor to the Battle of the Pacific with various ships and stuff. Let me make sure I cover everything that I want to cover here about this. Yeah. Okay, so another thing too, McDonald's, A&W restaurants, like the very first fast food restaurants and even the credit card system itself started in California. If you want to know where like credit cards were first used, it was in 1960s California. McDonald's started in California. A&W restaurants started in California in 1919. McDonald's started in 1940. Taco Bell in 1961. Panda Express in 1983. Visa Inc. or Visa Incorporated, Bank of America, is located in Fresno, California. MasterCard, an interbank card association, started in 1966 by a group of California banks. So already California is the second major center of banking and finance in the United States, and the second most important center of universities of higher learning and academic scholarship. I wanted to point that out. Alright, so California supplied thousands of soldiers for the Union war effort. California troops were responsible for pushing the Confederate Army out of Arizona and New Mexico in 1862. Additionally, numerous California regiments were organized and joined with state regiments back east. Californians would face the enemy in most of the major battles in the East, including one regiment organized and commanded by former California Senator Edward Dickinson Baker, then a colonial, that defended against Pickett's charge at Gettysburg. So that's interesting. There is actually a Californian regiment at Gettysburg fighting for the Union. Arguably the most pivotal military action in the war. In all, over 17,000 Californians would join as soldiers. This is the highest per capita total for any state in the Union. So, yeah, a lot of Californians fought for the Union. I have long desired to see California. The production of her gold mines has been a marvel to me, and her stand for the Union, her generous offerings to the Sanitary Commission, and her loyal representatives have endeared your people to me. And nothing would give me more pleasure than a visit to the Pacific shore, and to say in person to your citizens, God bless you for your devotion to the Union, but the unknown is before us. I may say, however, that I have it now in purpose, when the railroad is finished, to visit your wonderful state. Abraham Lincoln speaking to Charles Maltby, Superintendent of Indian Affairs. So yeah, California was instrumental in its support to the Union. Take a look at some of the Indian Wars. So some of the fights between the white man and the red man. There was Gila Expedition, the Yama War, 1850 to 1853. Bridge Gulch Massacre, Toll River Farm and Second Pitt River Expedition, the Wintun War, the Smith River Reservation, the 2-Year War, a lot of Indian wars from the time of the Civil War to 1880, and then there's the Maddock War. Now, a Hollywood movie that starred John Wayne, a Hollywood movie was made after this event. It happened around July to June of 1872 to 1873. It was the Maddock War. Captain Jack led 52 warriors in a band of more than 150 Modoc people who left the Klamath Reservation. So yeah, I think a Hollywood movie was made out of a lot of these different events. So let me make this smaller so we can just talk a little bit about the Maddock War. So that's Major General, hold on, let me move over here. This is Major General E.R.S. Canby. That's Captain Jack. And so Maddock was a Native American redskin, a red man, and they had a bunch of various fights out in Apache Pass and stuff. You know, it's very interesting. I'm not going to go over all the details and stuff. Also, someone in the chat wanted to know about Mormons in California. I think the Mormons, mainly for the most part, settled in southeastern California. But there are some Mormons in California. I'll go ahead and we'll talk about that. But in the Mexican-American War, there was the Mormon Battalion. So California has a long history with the Mormon Church, starting with members who sailed to San Francisco aboard the Brooklyn. Then, when members of the U.S. Army, known as the Mormon Battalion, were discharged in San Diego, many stayed and helped build up the San Diego area. A major Mormon colony was founded in the 1850s in San Bernardino. This colony was called back to Utah in 1858 during the threat of the Johnston's War. So there's a little bit of Mormon history. You know, I can't talk too much about it. I mean, there's a lot of different religious sects in California. So there's just a little bit of that. I'll try to talk a little bit, as much as I can, about the Californian aviation industry, the contributions of the aviation industry, but there's quite a lot of history here. The maritime, like Californian maritime history is important. There's a lot of, what do you call those things that are on the coast and they send light beams out? Those light towers, that's it. So the maritime history of California is a very interesting one. A lot of paddle steamers were going up and down the major rivers of California. Native California maritime stuff and networks. I'm not going to go in the Indians. Oh, Francis Drake sailed into San Francisco Bay and claimed a part of California for England. This was in 1579. English explorer and privateer Francis Drake sailed along the coast of California in 1579 after capturing 2 Spanish treasure galleons headed for the Philippines in the Pacific. It is believed that he landed somewhere on the California coast. So we don't actually know where he landed, but he was one of the first white people to go to California. Russia, the Russian Empire, made some claims on California. but they abandoned those claims after 1844 or 1845. But yeah, there is a lot of U.S. naval activity. Let's see here. John Jacob Astor built Fort Astoria on the Columbia River in 1811. So there was already like American stuff that was going on, you know, well before the 1840s. Wow. So it looks like the United States Navy was already discussing about taking California as far back as the Texas Revolution. But yeah, there was a lot of paddle wheel steamers. Yeah, I'm just looking right fast through all of this. So yeah, California is a major center of shipping industry, maritime aviation stuff. Second most important banking center and stuff. Now, I want to talk about some of the downsides of California. But you know what? First, let's talk about the Bear Flag Republic. How could we ever not talk about the Bear Flag Revolt that happened in 1846? Alright, so the Bear Flag Revolt happened from June to July 1846. A small group of American settlers in California rebelled against the Mexican government and proclaimed California as an independent republic. Alright, so here is the Bear Flag emblem thing. It's basically just the same thing as the current flag of California. There is not that much of a difference. There is, let's see here, Texas. So, yeah, the rebellion was covertly encouraged by the U.S. Army, Brevet Captain John C. Fremont. So, the settlers who met with Fremont, there is taking of government horses, the capture of Sonoma. So yeah, here is a monument to the Bear Flag Revolt. So the Bear Flag Revolt only lasted a few months. So 2 days later, on July the 9th, the Bear Flag Revolt and whatever renamed of the California Republic ended with Navy Lieutenant Joseph Revere was sent to Sonoma from the USS Portsmouth, which had been berthed in Sausalito, carrying two 27-star United States flags, one for Sonoma and the other for Sutter's Fort. The squadron had run out of the new 28-star flags that reflected Texas's admittance to the Union. The Bear Flag was taken down that day and was given to the clerk of the Portsmouth, John Elliott Montgomery, the son of Commander John B. Montgomery. By the way, John B. Montgomery was a veteran of the War of 1812, I think. John E. wrote to his mother later in July that Cuffy came down growling. The following November, John and his older brother disappeared while traveling to Sacramento and were presumed deceased. Commander Montgomery kept the Bear Flag, had a copy made, and eventually both were delivered to the Secretary of the Navy. So for a while, California was under the control of the U.S. Navy before it became a territory of the United States, and then a flag. So yeah, here are all of the various events. This revolt only lasted from June the 14th to July the 19th, 1846. California in World War II. Alright, so California made a very huge contribution to the United States war effort in World War II. I am not going to completely go over all the details, but Japanese were forced into internment camps. Virtually all the Japanese were kicked out. The War Shipping Administration used the dockyards and stuff of California, and it contributed enormously. I don't think there was any battles, but yeah. Aircraft, a lot of aircraft manufacturing people, B-17, Lockheed, Douglas, North American B-25, all of these major airplanes, they were largely built in aviation plants in California during the war. So, and there's a lot of U.S. naval bases and stuff. Yeah. So, what else is there to really say about California? So, California basically started, of course, as a bunch of Indian tribes and nomads. And then it developed with the impresario system, has basically a very fringe outpost of the Spanish Empire. It became largely an agricultural area with the Mexicans in the time of the early Republic. And then from there, California grew into a major agricultural and industrial center. Californians contributed highly to the Civil War and to the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, the Korean, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan wars, and the War on Terror and the Cold War, etc. Now, during the Cold War, I need to mention that during the Cold War, California contributed enormously to the United States industrial military complex in fighting communism and destroying the influence of the Soviet Union over the world. But after the end of the Cold War, in much of the same way as Japan, the Californian industrial economy plummeted. There was a lot of transition to the private sector, deindustrialization, and stuff. So a lot of the reason why the Californian economy is so bad is because it plummeted down due to the lack of, not having an enemy to fight after the end of the Cold War in 1991. I just wanted to mention that. Another thing, too, there is, what is it called? Damn it, dude. What is that place in... Where is that high-tech place? High-tech area in California. Silicon Valley, that's it. Silicon Valley, alright. Let's talk a little bit about Silicon Valley and all of these high investors and stuff. California also contributed a lot to the development of rockets in the NASA space program, too. The microchip and the vacuum tube and a lot of the computer technology and stuff originated in California. Stanford University and Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley has been instrumental in developing stuff like the iPhone with Steve Jobs. There was the dot-com boom, like Amazon.com, eBay, Craigslist, Google, PayPal. All of these high-tech companies originated in Silicon Valley. And, Steve Jobs is a spurg. He's an autist. Silicon Valley is just full of dozens of autists and spurgs, Asperger's people building and constructing these high-tech industries and stuff. You know, I guess California Space Agency. I guess I need to go ahead and talk about the California Space Authority too. So the California Space Authority, it was very instrumental in helping and contributing to the space race with the Soviet Union. Most of American space agencies were located in California during the Cold War, and like Gemini, the Gemini, and the Apollo missions and stuff, that was all built in California. California contributed, along with the Northeast, to a lot of the space industry and the development of spacecraft and, you know, space tech, and, you know, a lot of the astronauts trained in California. A lot of the training and stuff was done in California with the U.S. Air Force and stuff. So, yeah, you know, California is the center of the American aeronautics industry. So, obviously, it would have a huge influence on the space industry. Now, I want to talk about some of the negative things about California. California has a lot of gay rights and LGBTQ rights and stuff. California LGBTQ rights. So in California, like if you have a job or if you work, you are forced to go and take these training sessions to learn about trans identity and non-binary, and like stuff about conversion therapy on minors and same-sex marriage. California legalized same-sex marriage in 2008, but in reality, California is one of the most vibrant, tolerant, and liberal states in the entire country when it comes to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, LGBT, you know, rights. And this has been going on since the 70s. Same-sex sexual activity was legalized all the way back in 1976. Harvey Milk was the first elected LGBT official in the state, at least out of the closet. So California is the center of a lot of wokeist politics, a lot of wokeism and stuff. There's even a unique California LGBT flag, which I'll show right here as soon as it freaking loads. Alright, so you see the rainbow flag there underneath the Californian flag. So BLM, LGBTQ, transgender rights and stuff, a lot of that is headquartered in California. So there's a lot of pride parades and pride festivals and stuff. There's also a lot of problems with some gang organizations and stuff in California, so yeah. So in summary, basically in summary, a lot of major companies and private companies and stuff like McDonald's, MGM, Disney, Google, and Apple, etc., all originated in California. But California is also a very open and very pro-gay friendly state. So, alright, I'm going to read the chat. Apple Cake Pizza says, "Let's go!" Hi, Warhammer. What's up, third four, how are you doing? How will crypto crashing affect geopolitics? That's very interesting. Did Bitcoin actually have its start in California? I don't think that Bitcoin originates in California, but I might be wrong. How crypto crashing will affect geopolitics? Well, overall, 3-4, cryptocurrency is not really that big or has that big of an influence on world trade overall. Most of world trade is done in stocks and resources and gold and silver and dollars and stuff. So, I don't think cryptocurrency outside of like the internet and out of digital services has that big of an influence. So I don't think it has that big of an effect. Hoplite official. Hoplite official Mormons. Oh no! Yeah, a few Mormons settled in the San Diego area. Apple Cake Pizza, was Shaggy part of the early Mormon tribes that moved to California? I have no idea, bro. He says that he's Welsh and German, and he claims that like he descends directly from Confederates or something. So I don't think that his family moved to California. He's actually, some of his family is from the South. I don't know which part of the South, but Mormon Shaggy is a convert. Like, his parents were not Mormons. 100% Ashkenazi Jew. There he is. There I am, Ashton Parks. Woo! Let's go! Roman Malinowski. They did the Japanese dirty during the Second World War, even leading up to it. It's a damn shame. The Japanese internment policies and stuff was highly unfair and undeserving. Most of the Japanese ancestral Americans were basically very loyal. Now, in Hawaii, I would definitely say that in Hawaii, a lot of the Japanese were loyal to Hirohito, but most of the Japanese Americans outside of Hawaii tended to be very assimilated by the time of World War II. And also, even if they were a potential fifth column in the United States that were opposed to freedom and democracy and like wanted the emperor to win and Bushido to win, they were so small. Like, there was only, how much was it? There was like 1.5 million Japanese in America, and most of them were Christian converts by two. So I don't think that too many Japanese were really going to be that much of a threat. It was war, and there was a lot of hysteria and propaganda going out, and maybe it was necessary. I don't doubt that a good proportion of the Japanese deserve to be interned because of their double loyalties and being a potential fifth column. But not all the Japanese or the Italians or Germans necessarily deserve to be interned, During the Cold War, no Soviets were ever interned en masse like what happened during World War I and World War II, But, they also interned a lot of copperheads during the Civil War, and during the American Revolution, a lot of loyalists, a lot of Tories and loyalists in the colonies were interned. And during the War of 1812, British or English Americans, or Americans that had British citizenship or had immigrated from the United Kingdom, were jailed and interned, because of fear of them not being loyal to the Republic. 3-4. It is unknown where Bitcoin comes from. Some say Japan. Yeah, that's probably so. Jeff Berry! Forge Gang! Gang, 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 gang! Let's go! What's up, Jeff Berry? Warhammer, let's go! Forge Gang! Wolf Gang and Forge Gang unite! What's up, bro? What's up, Rick Perry? You're a hard man! Rick Perry's a hard man, brother! Blackberry says, go! Skid it! Let's go! Rick Perry says, just woke up after sleeping 8 hours. Waking up and deciding on another 4. Awesome, bro. I was thinking about probably going back to sleep after I do this stream. I just wanted to do something, and I wanted to, talk about California a bit. But yeah. Adreno Gang! Oh, dude. Freaking Drake Shelton and his crappy New Saxony bullshit, bro. Oh, dude. Nice. Gang members in the chat. Norman gang members. Norman Hartman, baby. Anglo-Norman Hartman, bro. But yeah, Rick Perry, I just today responded to all your stuff on your Facebook about all that stuff, but it's kind of really off topic to this discussion. I could do another live stream and we could talk about everything that you said in regards to the inheritance of the Gentiles from Adam and Noah, the feudal church period and all that stuff. So hold on a second. Alright, I'm going to go into the smithy if anybody wants to talk about what was discussed in this stream. Norman Gang! Let's go! Norman Cavalier Hardman, brother. Let's get it, let's go. If you want to, I'll read that track from George Fitzhugh again, if you want to. Alright, I am in the smithy. I'm in the smithy. If anybody wants to chat, just let me know. I'm just making sure that Drunken Surfer isn't streaming his Bible stream. Always a solid historical analysis. Drake is obsessed by something merely transitional. New Norman nationalism. Norman nationalism, that's where it's going. Norman's making comeback, always be getting hit. Norman's making comeback, crusades, Norman crusaders going to Palestine and taking back Jerusalem from the Saracens, invading England and taking over in 1066, going to Sicily and fighting the Saracens and the Moors and stuff. Alright, I don't think a guy gel wants to chat. Alright, I'm going to take a break. Oh, did somebody come in? No. Okay, the train is coming. Kino train. I'm going to take a break right fast, and I will be right back.
Nikoli več ne bo, kot je nekdaj bilo. A vem, da si bova spet segla v roko. Izpuhtela je ljubezen, a to ni hudo. Bolj me boli za prijateljstvo. Nikoli več ne bo, kot je nekdaj bilo. strinetih napak, pa rane rižejo, včasih se zazrem in vidim veselje, ko čutim ta
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and resume. Resuming the gang activities! Cavaliers stay winning. That's right. Drake is proud of his Presbyterian culture. But back in the day, they were fighting the English on the side of the Jacobites to oppose the centralization of the Union. With this wrench, I hold death and life in my hands. The adrenaline rush is unspeakably glorious. Indeed, proud fair prince, the adrenaline of fighting the Southern Israelite and getting a mention from him is so exhilarating. But yeah, a lot of Presbyterians did fight for the Jacobites. Hey, what's up, Hoplite official? How you doing, bro?
Alright.
The train is coming. What's that?
We're talking about California here, I see.
Yeah, it's a Midwest, far western Pacific state.
I wasn't aware.
We don't have to just talk
No
about.
way, bro.
We don't have to just talk about California. Just talk about whatever, bro.
No, it's fine. I wanted to say, I think it's really interesting that, I don't know if you can hear me well. I've been, but, I think it's really interesting that, that the Russians were there. I think that's good.
The what? Oh, I can't hear you very
You
well.
can't hear me. There's a train.
It's already passed. Yeah, I can't do nothing about that. It's so irritating. I have to wait until it passes before the train. I have to wait for the train to go before I can start up a stream.
Ah. Well, I've got a low voice. I assume you can hear me now. Is this?
Yeah. What did you say, bro? I couldn't hear you.
Well, I was saying it was. That's an interesting. I always like history, and there are these really cool moments in history, like the Russians in California. But I mean, it's never really brought up, and I mean, we don't really have any good first-hand sources, I guess. I mean, I'm riffing, but I don't know. I feel that way. You can hear me.
The Russians founded Fort Rus, and they had like a naval platoon or a squadron in Alaska, somewhere in Alaska, and they founded a fort for like 10 years or something, and they traded with the Indians for timber and beaver and stuff, basically. What's up, Dark Ninja? Yeah, basically that. They abandoned all claims to California, like 30 years before they sold Alaska to the United States under the under the Johnson administration.
Well, I kind of wonder why, because I mean, California is not Alaska, right? It's like colonizable. I mean,
I don't know. That is interesting.
It's like actually a good question. It's like an interesting query. I don't know.
Well, I heard that the Russians almost colonized Hawaii. Like, I've heard that they actually sent a military...
Yeah, I heard that too, yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
Go ahead.
Oh, me? Who? Well, I just think it's, I'm riffing here, but I think, California is really, without California, would America even exist? No, America would exist, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's so crucial to international development.
Yeah, that is true. I don't think America could have won the World War II without California. Like without the Pacific Coast and being.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this is an interesting fact, but did you know that in World War II, there were actually Japanese naval raids, not naval, sorry, but air raids, where they would actually blow up like California oil processing facilities, and they would do nighttime raids. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that. There's this interesting event that happened. It's called the Battle of the Lights. And they say that a UFO was over San Francisco.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Like a giant UFO came over the city. And they thought that they were being bombed by the Japanese or the Germans. And then later they said it was because of UFO activity.
Well, I think it might actually have been the Japanese, because they had these big aircraft carrier submarines that could carry submarines, and they were trying to blow up the Panama Canal with kamikaze strikes. But I don't know how much that's related to California.
That's interesting how they try to blow up their oil refineries. Well, dude, the United States is such a huge country. It's so enormous. And there's so much on...
Yeah, and especially compared to the size of, Japan. It's like America is this, giant monster of a nation. It's only really comparable in size, I feel like to Russia or something, because in modern warfare I feel like it's really impossible to disable any sort of American industry. It's an impossible task. There's just so much space here, I guess.
Yeah, well, Lincoln once said that America is so expansive and vast that no country could ever invade Europe. Neither Europe nor Asia could ever invade the United States and take it by force. The only way that America would be destroyed is if we do it ourselves. Lincoln actually wrote that in 1839 or something.
I think that's absolutely true, man. I think that's absolutely true. I think America is a multi-biome nation. It's got deserts and plains, and the south is swampland, and there's ranch land. It's really, undefeatable, I guess. Really, if you think about it, it's such a monumental task. There's no way you could ever.
Yeah.
It's like.
Do you think America's influence is declining?
In World War II. Sorry, I couldn't. There was a little connection area. You said something about influence.
Yeah. Do you think that after 2014, Pax Americana might be in decline? America might be losing some of its global influence because of Russia and China?
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people who are smart might have predicted this in the 80s and 90s, but I think a lot of people weren't expecting. Because China was always this backwater, And the problem with China is that it's the same thing with America, where there's so many people and there's so much land, it's kind of hard for the military to invade. And I feel like with America, the problem is it's not outside forces, Like, Germany in World War I and World War II was capsized with its ambitions by the outside. But I feel like with China and America, it's always been the internal politics. And you can see in China, they rapidly industrialized under Mao, and Mao was a very smart guy, and somehow he was really the only guy to make communism work, I feel. I mean, and it's not really communism, but it's like, the Chinese people, I don't want to be mean to them, but they have this, like, long-standing culture in China, like, in the BC age, because China is it's got fertile valleys, so there's so much farming that the population of China boomed very early on, in BC ages, 20,000 BC, there were already like millions of people there, so they couldn't really expand into themselves. I mean, the battles there were millions big. And now that China has been united by the
I'll be right back.
Chinese Communist state, Sorry, should I go forward into the China rant, or can you hear me? I've been disconnected. I died. Wait, no, I haven't.
Sorry about that, bro.
I've come to where are we having some technical errors here? I don't know.
No, I thought somebody was like kicking the door or something. And
oh my God!
Yeah.
Look, man, the FSB was poisoning me with these habanero popcorn chips earlier. So I think this might be a coordinated assault on your position there. No,
I hope not, bro. Damn. Oh, dude. Yeah, let's continue. It's just instinct, bro. It's just instinctive.
Yeah. Yeah,
but,
no, I get it 1,000%, man.
Nothing happened.
Yeah. But like I was saying, China it's very industrialized now, and to like an insane degree. And the Chinese people have always been like agriculturalists, and China has finally moved forward, and it's pretty much fully industrialized on the coasts, and the coasts are huge, and it's basically most of the country is the coast, and then like Yunnan and some of these rural places, and then like a quarter of China is like a desert, basically. And I feel like Russia has always been a geopolitical player, but it's lacked the funding, if you know what I mean, to really oppose the world. And the Soviet Union was a big project, and eventually, essentially they ran out of funding, to be real. I mean, they basically became bankrupt as a country. And,
Yugoslavia went down even
I
worse.
think that's why...
Yugoslavia went down much worse than the Soviets did. I mean, at least Russia kind of kept some of its integrity. Like, Russia did... Oh, sorry.
I mean, the destruction of Russia, the destruction of Yugoslavia was a much slower burn than, I feel, than this. The Soviet Union, like, nobody called themselves Soviets, really, past like 1985, the Soviet Union became like almost, it was culturally American, but it was basically built on, it transitioned in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Stalin left that mark that the Soviet Union was almost, it was like almost a neo-imperialist force. And that slowly died out. And there was a lot of electronic music and like influences from the West that led to like a souring of that Stalinist position that communism should be exported. And like Russia, very, very fast, almost overnight, like went down the toilet basically, and the Soviet Union was like destroyed pretty much, like almost overnight.
Yeah, well, did you know that in 1988 the CPSU passed a economic reform policy to end the central command system in 1988?
Yeah.
What do you think about the Moscow Punch, the anti-Gorbachev Moscow Punch?
Oh yeah. Well, I think it was based in reality. It wasn't like a crazy idea to pull it off, and I mean, it wasn't that insane of an idea. But the problem was, like I said, and I could be wrong, but these things in the past, they had this ideological propensity, but once the Soviet Union became the RFSR, and that sort of Russian identity started to foster, the Soviet Union became like this, I don't want to say like fascist or anything because they were communists, but it became almost like this reverse sort of.
Well, all the Jews left the Soviet Union and went to Israel, and when that happened, the stronger Bolshevik influence weakened down and was replaced with an almost quasi-fascist culture. The Soviet Union almost became completely fascist. But Russia, the RSFSR was already founded in 1918. Like, after the October Revolution, the Russian Socialist Federated Soviet Republic, that already existed. It joined with the Belarusian, Ukrainian, and Caucasian Socialist Soviet republics to form the Soviet Union.
When I said RSSR, I was more referring to the late 80s period. I don't know if you're familiar, where it wasn't really a name change, but it was almost there was a lot more focus, I feel, by the that social fascism had sort of kicked into the communist Politburo, and there was less of a focus on a lot of these internationalist measures and more of a focus, I feel, and of course I could be talking on my ass, but from what I know, there was that internal focus, and I feel like the Moscow Touch was and I could be wrong, but I feel like it was those older forces who.
It was very likely Western backed. It was very likely backed by the West. The West wanted to destroy the Soviet Union purposefully.
Oh, of course.
Are you familiar with Soviet Russian Bear? Do you know the channel Soviet Russian Bear and Captain Cool 07?
No, sir, I do not. I'm not familiar with these channels.
They did a breakdown of the collapse of the Soviet Union. There's another channel called Herp Derp, and he does a lot of good videos on the Third Reich and on communism. But his channel is Herp Derp. But Gorbachev was a moron. Gorbachev was basically a Western puppet and a moron.
Well, I feel like Gorbachev is one of these characters where I don't know Gorbachev personally. Obviously, I'm a 20-year-old American, but I feel like there are these men in history that I almost feel like Gorbachev is sort of like a Maximilian, like, you know, the Habsburgian, like, Mexican emperor, almost one of these figures where he's sort of put into power at, like, the tail end of this, like, crazy period in history. And I feel like Gorbachev was, like, this moronic guy who was, like, sort of privy to, like, all these Western ideals, and he's, like, on board this sinking ship, and the only way he thinks he can get off is, and maybe fix things is to, like, curtail to, like, the people that hate him anyway. I feel like it's, like, that whole period in history is not touched up on in even, like, advanced textbooks, but
Yeah, you know that Vladimir.
I always found Soviet history.
Have you ever tried to read it from a Russian perspective? Because I actually read a Soviet Union history book from the 60s that I translated with Google Translate.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Actually, what were the insights there?
It wasn't very overtly different. It just says that class warfare is the central issue. They talk about dialectical materialism and the course of the revolution of the proletariat. They were talking about class warfare. It's just basically a genuine history of Russia. In the early Soviet period, there were no history courses. It was all just a history of the progression of the working class and the development of the working state, or the state of the worker. And then later they went back to Tsarist pre-revolution history and started it with 862 when the Vikings came over and founded Kievan Rus. A lot of mixed stuff about the Tsar, but Stalin Stalin was a big fan of, what was those Tsarist generals under Catherine the Great? Suvorov, Andrei Suvorov, Alexander Nevsky, Suvorov, Admiral Nakhimov, and all these other guys, historical figures. They were highly venerated, and so were Bolsheviks from the Civil War. Leon Trotsky was censored out of Soviet history because he was considered a traitor.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you look at the revolution with a closer lens, Stalin is like this, like, sort of Georgian. He's sort of like the military. Leon Trotsky was like the internationalist sort of military general guy, but Stalin is like this sort of like hardcore Georgian guy that's like all in for it, and he winds up getting into power, and he's sort of like moves away from, like, he doesn't move away, but there's like a condemnation of a complete wiping away of Trotsky, and he focuses more on sort of like reviving the ideological aspect of, like, the ideological neo-imperialist aspect of the Soviet Union, and like creates it from nothing. Like influencing other nations like Spain and things like this, but in a way that doesn't that isn't entirely internationalist, right? It's like, well, it's for communism, but really a lot of the things that Stalin was signing off on, these military interventions, were like for the Soviet Empire almost, to get like resources and assets, opposed to the Leon Trotsky doctrine of It's simply ideological, and that's always interesting.
Yeah, one pressing issue I need to say is that I don't think that the Bolsheviks were entirely Jewish.
Oh, certainly not. They had origins and people in the movement, but that whole sort of Leon Trotsky faction with like sort of these, people. A lot of these guys were Jewish, but I mean not all of them, of course. And there were, of course, people like Stalin and some of the lower class. But I feel like at the end of the day, to really start a revolution in such a big place like Russia, you're gonna end up making friends with a lot of like rich, successful people to make the whole thing work. I mean, that's how revolutions work. I mean, so of course you're gonna make friends with.
Revolutions are very tumultuous. They completely destroy the previous existing state and system, and they replace it with something else, and it's operated by secret societies like
absolutely,
like Lehman Brothers, and the Warburgs, Kuhn Loeb, Rockefellers and stuff. These guys and the Rothschilds, they backed the overthrow of the Tsar, and together with like the Yiddish socialist Yiddish movement, Polish socialists, and like the Bolshevik Party and stuff, and they were a fringe of the Social Democrats. They were a fringe sect of the Social Democrats, and like a lot of Marxists did not like Lenin. Like a lot of Marxists up to that point actually did not like Lenin's theories. It was only after he succeeded that people took him seriously.
For sure. Lenin was always this sort of like ne'er-do-well before 1906, and then he was like the failed revolutionary, and then the Germans sent him back, and then he was financed by Wall Street, and then he was successful, and then people started taking him seriously. But it's interesting to think Russia was always in like a period of chaos. It really almost never got a break, especially under the Tsar. And all these tensions were bubbling over the surface. Because, I mean, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth was a giant nation that was annexed. And there was still that cultural feeling of, we want an independent Poland and we want this. And Marx came along and espoused it, and it picked up steam in these circles, in these anti-Tsar circles that were originally, I don't know, the ideology of Marx and Hegel picked up a lot of steam with these circles, which were originally anti-monarchist and anarchist and anti-monarchist, and a lot of these movements became Marxist just because that was kind of the anti-Tsar thing, and I think that's the only way the revolution really could have happened.
Like this anti-Ethan Ralph and pro-Ethan Ralph circle, without really saying virtually nothing about Ethan Ralph on my videos.
I don't know, man. People, I get that Ethan Ralph is like a lol cow, but, I grew up with friends, and I would hang out over at their house, and their house was at the trailer park. And so I guess growing up, I knew a lot of Ethan, and I don't want to sound stereotypical. I don't want to offend the lower classes. You got to live in a trailer, that's what you got to do. But I grew up knowing a lot of like Ethan Ralphs, and this guy's like a dime a dozen. And it always amuses me that people are like attracted to like A-logging this guy like a fly. I mean, he's just not interesting. I don't know what to say.
I don't think he's
My
really
opinion.
that interesting either. All he does is just go, oh wow, oh. He's like he's like a Fred Flintstone. He comes off like Fred Flintstone.
Yeah. Well, he's just like he's a character. A lot of these guys are characters that people get attracted to A-logging, and it's like, but it's not interesting. I don't know what to say. It's not interesting. And it's like, I don't get, like, have you ever heard of Wings of Redemption? People do the same thing to Wings of Redemption if they're reading anything else. And it's not one of them.
But yeah, the Soviet Union was bound to fail. Putin said that Lenin planted a bomb under the Soviet Union or under the Ukraine when he set the Union up. And Putin himself said that the Soviets were set up to fail.
Yeah. Hold on here. Yeah, I think they were always going to fail. I think Russia is the worst place to have a communist revolution. And I think they had to build, there were, I don't know, can you hear me? Hold on.
Were you playing a game
right.
or something? Were you playing like a game a while ago, a shooting game?
I think, I don't know, hold on. Can I hear you? Are you talking?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I couldn't hear you very well a while ago. You were talking about the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth.
Oh, shoot, I know what. No, I don't. Wait.
Oh, you can't hear what I'm saying? Can you hear me?
Hold on, wait, I gotta transfer you. If you can hear me. Wait. Okay. That should be good. Yeah. The Soviet Union was like, if you said something important, I missed out on it like about a minute, but the Soviet Union was always going to be failed. And it's funny to see, like, I mean, Cuba's lasted longer. I mean, not longer, but just location.
Well, it was set up on the kind of serfdom culture of the Tsarist era, but on a socialist level, collectivist, socialist, Bolshevik level.
Yeah. That serfdom economy made, like, Russia one of the most powerful nations in the later, once they had broken free from the Mongols in the 1400s, they became wildly successful. But then, in the 1800s and the 1900s, they had no factories whatsoever. They built, like, they ordered cowboy repeaters in World War One, like 1 million of them, because they just didn't have any plants. And I mean, the whole serfdom thing is like, it's crazy to think that it went to like 1812 almost, or I forget, but
1861, I think.
18, like, that's insane to think about.
Yeah.
The serfdom system, while Britain was having its industrial revolution, and while the North was industrializing, they were still getting off serf labor. And I mean, Russia's always been this like, place, this paradoxical place.
It's like half European and half Asian, in a way. It's
Yeah.
a mixed Eurasian or Euro-Asiatic society.
Yep, and it's like it's got this weird. I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad about Russian people. I don't want to be mean to Russian people. I don't want to offend Russian people. But it does have like this very unique national origin that I think it's like you know, like I said, this paradoxical like meeting of the continents where a lot of this Russia's big, but a lot of it is just kind of like Kansas, basically. It's like open fields. None of it was. Russia's big, but the reason it's big is because it was so easy to expand. Because the only people that were there were like Turkic tribals, almost. You know, with yurts. And so Russia has like resources, but it's like really the only places you can industrialize are with the Ural Mountains, if you want to set up industry there, and the western half of the nation. But it's like, you know, I don't know, geographically, it's like this place at a time or something. You know, it's like a science fiction film.
Yeah, it's kind of like a blown out nuclear reactor. Like Chernobyl is endemic of the entire country. Russia's entire financial sector is gone. It's been virtually decomposed.
Well, I mean, I don't know how the Ukraine war is going to go, but I'm pretty sure doesn't. I mean, Russia's got like a lot of the world's grain. Is this something he can dangle? I mean, I don't want to make it, you know, to current politics to get anyone upset, but I mean, do you think Putin's going to dangle that like grain production, that food production over the West's head? Do you think, or is that going to be episode?
Well, he's already using gas to push the Europeans to stay out of the war and not send military supplies. But in spite of the enormous control he has on gas supplies to Europe, the Germans and the Poles are sending military equipment and aid to the Ukrainians.
Yeah, it's like it's with the whole Ukraine thing. It's so crazy to see. I mean, we haven't seen this since Yugoslavia, but not even. And I think it's showing that Russia has like the economy of Italy, right? That's the big meme. But at the same time, if Italy went to war with France, I think they get stomped. But like I said, Russia is this giant place. It's got gas and it's got grain. And I mean, to start a civilization, that's really all you need. It's petrol and like McDonald's, right? And I think Russia's economy is like total in tatters. But at the end of the day, I feel like, I mean, I know there are optimistic, like, Russian Zoomers who are, like, all for Navalny and things, but the people in power, I mean, the Russian military is not the best, but, I mean, I think it can hold its weight, and I think that's, I mean, the CEO of BlackRock said that Russia's war in Ukraine has ended the era of globalism, and now, I don't know if that's true or not, but
I think
it's very interesting to think about.
I think it's good that globalism is ending. All these mega corporations.
It's absolutely good for everybody.
Yeah, all these transnational, international corporations and syndicates, like that's run by the Rockefellers and stuff. The Rockefellers are the ones that have allowed the Rockefeller Institution are the ones that have allowed, these agencies to bring in so many Mexicans and Latinos and black people into America and Asians and stuff
Oh, absolutely.
to miscegenate the population and weaken the population with foreign
Absolutely.
blood.
But
Internationalize
I,
it. They want brown people so they can be used as docile servants for the New World Order.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that's true, but I think the ideology part of it all comes second. We could see, these sort of movements in the works in like the 1800s, right? But I think at the end of the day, it's like a scramble to justify it with these transhumanism and technocracy and all this. But at the end of the day, I think it really does come down to like, what's the most efficient profit margin? And I really think it does come down to that. And I think, I don't want to make any presuppositions, but I think at the end of the day, like, I think there's this spirit in like American white guys that's like sort of a John Wayne type thing, where we want to be independent and we don't want to buy into the new Gucci scarf or whatever. And I think at the end of the day, that hurt profit lines. So I think that's why we're getting the axe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all of this stuff about transgender rights and gay rights and stuff is failing. Like, the majority of people are still heterosexual and want to marry and have kids and have families.
Well, that's what I'm.
That's what most people
saying.
Want.
I think that, nature abhors a vacuum, and I think, all these people like Putin, they're part of the club, but Putin's going to go sicko mode if they say he can't be part of the end state product, or greater Russia can't be part of it. And I think that's always going to happen with these types of programs. And I don't think any ideology I think all that's a cope that the rich people and that the elites use. All of this, I think, is a coping mechanism for them, like, oh, we're helping the brown people. But it's all just like almost an elaborate cover-up of the fact that it really comes down to we transitioned from this world of nobles, which was founded on military action and military prowess in an age before gunpowder. And that's how a lot of the royal line started. Now, I know that's not true for people like the Habsburgs, but for a lot of the czars and things like this, their power, you have to admit, was won through, like, the king would ride into battle, right? And that ended, and it's gone to economic power. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of these people will get the sort of capos on board with all this riff-raff talk about gay rights and this. But bottom line is, if their new target demographic or whatever, like Latino people, start getting angry and all in a tip, I think we can expect these forces to change literally overnight. They'll change their whole messaging and their whole programming if it means perking out another 20 years of profits, because profits equals power in this brave new world.
Oh, absolutely, bro. Have you read Fahrenheit 451? It talks about how they burn books because it doesn't sit with the establishment. So they just massively burn books.
That's the thing that I noticed. It's happening in real time. And it's happening in a very subtle way. It's not outright blatant like that. But, in Germany, they banned the swastika. And I don't care how you feel about, I'm not here to, say National Socialism is good or bad, or Adolf Hitler was a good or bad man.
Oh, I don't
or
care.
Whatever.
I don't really care. Hitler was not bad at all.
Yeah.
He kind of lost his marbles at the end, but...
Oh, well, everybody would have.
Oh,
Everybody
absolutely.
would have, I think. Hold on here. Hold on. Pause. I gotta figure out.
Yeah, the anti-Nazi rhetoric is just centered around
Wait a second.
anti-white bullshit.
Is there a speaker? Is there a speaker?
Click on your volume or your microphone. Click on your real tech and change it to whatever you're using if you're using a microphone. But change your real tech.
The problem is that my phone's on 2% and I have to wear the headphones to hear you, unfortunately. And look, like I was saying, I forget what I was saying totally, but I think at the end of the day, the nature of force of vacuum, and as technology progresses, it's going to be whoever is the most willing to go insane, basically. And we've seen that with Putin, because at the end of the day, all of this is words, all of it's built on a trust system. So you get this guy like Putin, and you groom him with World Economic Forum stuff, with the whole ideological works, and we're going to do this, and by 2030 we're going to do that. But once someone like that is in power, what are you going to do once they have the hands on the nuclear codes? You going to pay someone to stop him when he's got 60 security guards or whatever? And I think that's just going to keep happening for 80 years.
Yeah, well, Russia keeps going through this cycle of strong, powerful warlords or leaders that control the nation, and everybody falls in line and is just obedient because they feel that they need a powerful leader to rule them. It's a cycle that's been going on since Ivan the Terrible, Ivan Grozny, Ivan the Terrible.
Yeah, and in this sort of this new world, this sort of globalist-driven world, that in of itself is a very dangerous thing to the powers that be, because the people sort of not taking a monetary power seriously, taking a physical power much more seriously, is a culturally dangerous thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were, some of these guys were drumming up, how can we get the Catholic Association of Migrant Resources run by Julian Rosenberg to send 200,000 Somalian immigrants or something to Volgograd or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that Russians want to have black people in their country, and neither do Poles.
They have this I think they have a European sense about black people where I earnestly think that the Russians just don't give a shit about black people, whereas white people in America especially care about the feelings of black people to a very odd cultural degree.
It goes back to the abolitionist movement. It goes back to the Jacobin abolitionist movement in the Northeast, in New England.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there could ever be a John Brown in Russia.
Oh, definitely.
But wait. Hold on. I gotta see if. Hold on.
Well, Putin says that Russia is a multi-ethnic or multinational entity. You know, it has Tatars, it has Boryats, it has Finno-Ugrians, they have Tatars and Uzbeks. There's some, you know, Khazars that used to exist there. And most Khazars were not Jews, by the way. There's Mongols, there's steppe nomad people, and there's even Germans and Poles that have assimilated. There's actually Russians that have German and Polish last names, and they are literally Russian.
Well,
you know, their loyalty is to Russia. You know, they will they will literally wave Soviet flags with a hammer and sickle, and they will wave the Russian tricolor, and they will love Russia, but their last name is a Russified German or Polish last name.
Well, I think Russia is this like unique national progress that's like it's influenced, like America is influenced by the founding peoples that formed it, and it's got a history of rebellion, and it's got a unique geographical location. And when it comes to minorities and minority rights in Russia, if you're like a Kazakh nationalist or whatever, or you're a Kazakh ultranationalist and you're vying for the Kazakh race, I don't think the Russians are going to be mean to you or sympathetic to you. I could be making preposterous motions here, ideas, but I feel like the Russians, when it comes to these sort of tribal or minority movements, I think the Russians just tell them to shut up, basically, and like fuck off. And it literally works. But
oh yeah, well look at the Chechen Wars. Like the Chechens tried to succeed and create an Islamic republic on a kind of like a Middle Eastern model, and like the Russians wouldn't let them do it. Like Boris Yeltsin fought 2 full-on wars against Chechnya, bombed the shit out of Grozny, or whatever city is the capital of Chechnya. Oh, did you know that, by the way, did you know that in 1942 to 43, some of the North Caucasus Muslims actually collaborated with the German Wehrmacht during the Battle of the Caucasus?
I did. I know about some of the auxiliary troops, like the blacks and things, and the black Nazis, and the Japanese. There were Indian troops, and all these sort of.
The Nazis were not racist. They were racialists. They were not racists in the Jim Crow sense.
Of course.
Many of the German Nazis thought that Jim Crow was abhorrent. Like in the 1946 Olympics, Hitler shook hands with Barry Jones or Alan Jones, the black athlete.
Yeah.
And a lot of American statesmen did not like that Hitler shook hands with an African American.
I could be talking about my ass, but I specifically remember reading something where Adolf Hitler said that if the Native American tribes or something go against the central government's draft, that if the Germans had won World War II or something, that they would be awarded like the tribal land or something. But that could be hearsay.
I do think that a lot of Nazis liked the Indians or the Native Americans. But I don't know too much about that.
My expertise when it comes to the Third Reich is, of course I know a lot about the ideology, but it's more about the technical aspects, especially some of the like crazy weapons designs. And
stuff. The Wunderwaffen, the Wunder weapons.
Yeah. Like that's a crazy subject because all that stuff was used 20 years later in like Vietnam. I mean that the German helmets. We used from the 80s to like now, we used the Pazgit helmet, which is just like a copy of the Style helmet, which I find fascinating. That do you know the gun, the M60 that was used in Vietnam, the gun that Rambo has? I know this is veering off, but
is it an
you know what I'm talking
anti-aircraft
about?
flak gun? Yeah, I know it. I've watched some of the
No,
Rambo
it's like
movies.
it's like it's a light machine gun that was developed for around Vietnam. But the interesting thing about it is that it's a direct copy of a Nazi gun from like automatic rifle from like 1941 that they made for paratroopers. So all of this shit was brought over in the mid after World War II. All these big scientists were brought over in Operation Paperclip.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of that stuff wasn't new. Nikola Tesla had blueprints and ideas for anti-air, microwave, electric weapons that he was going to sell to the Soviet Union, and he had ideas. But the Germans were the first to mass produce this stuff, like jets and stuff like that. But
Yeah, well, the Germans
I find that whole subject.
The Nazis had the first jet-propelled planes, I think.
Yeah.
And they also had helicopters.
The fastest ones. The fastest ones. I have a little model in my kitchen there, a little plane model of the fastest plane of World War II. And the interesting thing about the German jet stuff and all that stuff is there's a guy on YouTube, I forget his name, but he was like really interested in trying to prove that the Germans had nuclear weapons. And I don't know how much I believe that, but it's totally.
I mean, you look at some of the ingenuity of this stuff, it's like, it's like the most revolutionary designs that were carbon copied. Okay, like the AK-47 is a copy of the German Sturmgewehr, if you know what that is. Cool, fascinating stuff like that. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Warhammer, but the Germans in World War II actually discussed at length building a platform that would be in the Earth's orbit that would hold V2 missiles. And there was going to be an orbital platform that could hold V2 missiles, and V2 missiles could dock with it and then fire automatically at wherever. But that's not something that I don't think America in the 40s could ever come up with. This is insane.
Yeah, there is a lot of technological and scientific designers for the Reich state, or for the state of the Reich.
Yeah.
That really were.
Well, the thing that made the German Reich, I think, so advanced is there was this need by the state. The National Socialist state, Adolf Hitler basically said, come with your crazy ideas and we'll give you a fucking black budget to do whatever you want. And a lot of those ideas were fruitful. And we've never seen that in history again.
That's insane, dude. That is insanely awesome. Dude, you would never see that in the United States, except maybe during the height of the Cold War, perhaps, but otherwise, no.
Yeah, I mean, just I mean, it's almost, it's, even people who aren't Nazis, but who are like history buffs, they almost look back fondly, even though they're politically disinclined to, at this like it really is like a snapshot of history, National Socialist Germany. But people look at it with this like almost incredible lens, because there is like this mega architecture, Greek revival, combined with like this unparalleled scientific electronic progress that's never been matched ever in history. Again.
Yeah,
but I don't think that's something that you can pull off without being a dictator.
Oh, absolutely, bro. Well, he was the Reich Chancellor and also the Führer. The office of Reich Chancellor and Führer were combined. And he said that he did everything in the name of the German Aryan people.
Yeah, that's also interesting to think about, is the whole Aryan thing. I don't know how truthful it is, but because I know a lot of the people who believe in it are like schizos and crazy Facebook moms, But there were all these studies done. I think there's some that are real, but the basic gist was that the whole Aryan thing is like the first people who tamed the horse or whatever called themselves the Aryan. It goes back thousands of years.
The Yamnaya steppe people, or the Kurgan people?
Yes. Yes. But I don't know how truthful it is. It might just be a cult. But it's interesting to think about, like, if I don't know if it's true or if it's not true, or if it's fantasy or if it's real. But purportedly, the Yamnaya steppe people basically like invaded all of Europe. There was people at that time that looked somewhat browner. Not like Indian brown, but like Sardinian people, like the last remnants of this like vast civilization that was once there, that was completely invaded. And you can see, like, this is sort of a meme going around the internet in some, like, secluded, like, National Socialist spots where before the Aryan invaders had arrived into Western and Eastern Europe, the Yamnaya people invaded. Because they call it a migration, but it's really, you and I can both agree that it's 50,000 people moving in is like an invasion. It's, uncontested. But there were these statues, and they were statues of fat, breasted women. I don't want to get too graphic, okay? But it was a dreadlocked woman with cornrows. She had cornrows, and she was big-breasted, and she had a fat tummy. And the cultural anthropologists surmised that the large 10,000 citizen spanning city-states that were invaded before were like, feeding cultures. They were in all these weird sexual things before these crazed warriors from the east came and invaded them. So who's going to invade us from space, Are we going to have a retread here? That's all
Have you ever heard of this idea of the Imperial Germans building UFOs and escaping from Antarctica, or the Germans having an Antarctica base?
Buddy, I live it. Dude, I know all about that, yeah. It's like, but the most interesting thing is that there's two versions of the story. One that National Socialists tell and one that communists tell. And the communist one is that the Germans were working with the Rothschilds, and that they built the UFOs and they escaped to help the reptilians collect slaves. on Mars. And then the National Socialist version is that Hitler secretly left to Antarctica, and Antarctica had hangars full of purportedly Hanabu hovercrafts, is what they were called. They might be real, but not in the I've heard, and I've looked into this purportedly, that these hovercrafts might have been real, but they might have been literal hovercrafts that were not designed to fly out of the Earth's atmosphere. They were designed to float 10 feet off the ground, but that's purported.
Yeah, by the Vril Society.
Yeah, that's what they say. It's by the. Well, there's multiple versions of this. It's a tale, so there's multiple versions. One of them says that the all-female Vril Society used arcane magic, and then there's another one that says that there was a UFO saucer crashed in a place called Black Forest in Germany, and that they reverse engineered the technology, which is why Germany was so technologically advanced in the war. But the basic story goes that they talked to aliens. Well, it's not that the Hanabu hovercrafts were, they didn't invent the flying saucers first. The story is that they used a regular airplane and put oxygen in it, and apparently these devices, I guess they're supposed to be anti-gravity. I don't know how anti-gravity is supposed to propel you into space, but
I don't think it can.
Yeah, apparently they were supposed to contact these aliens called the Aldebaranians, who are from the Aldebaran system. It's named after the Aldebaran sun. And apparently it's like an empire that lives in a Dyson sphere. It's all very strange and very fantastical. It's
they also said that German is very similar to Aldebaranian. Well, they also claim that German is very similar to Sumerian and Aldebaranian also.
Yeah, well, I think it's totally cuckoo. I think it's cuckoo. You know, I used to be one of these like crazy Hitler guys. Let me be real with you. Like I used to be part of this whole like new age sort of movement within Nazism, where it was like, let's take drugs and talk about UFOs. And I took ayahuasca. You know what ayahuasca is? It's the most powerful like psychedelic drug in the world. It's DMT.
Yeah, I was about to ask. It sounds like DMT. What was the experience like? Yeah. Was it fun?
It was 9 hours long. It was not fun. I was convinced there were two people talking to me, and that both of these people were satanic entities out to trick me into sinning. And they were shouting in my ears, and then, well, first of all, this was 9 hours long, and it was absolute hell in torture. This is why I stopped believing this stuff, is because it shook me to my core. And that's good, by the way. But what happened was, it didn't start anything, but then I closed my eyes and I started seeing these rainbow swastikas when I closed my eyes, and there were like thousands of them, and it was insane. And then there was a what happens with DMT is DMT is released when you're dreaming, but it's a small amount. So when you take that much DMT, the things that you see when you're dreaming come to life in the real world in a very scary way. So like I was convinced I was in the Amazonian jungle. Wow. I could see my house, but it was sort of like a hyper-phantasic hallucination where I was believing myself to be in the jungle. It was all very frightening. And then I don't really, it's a little graphic. graphic, but I ran up the stairs, and at my house, I was staying with my mother at the time, and our floor in the upper I told her, I said I took 10 grams, even though the recipe said 5, because I didn't think it was that powerful. Famous last words, of course. And so what happened was I looked down, and you know who Prince is, the musician Prince? For some reason, I guess this was in my mind. The entire floor was just faces of Prince. And this stuff is evil. It's very strong. It messes with your brain. And so you think you're seeing like all this crazy shit, and you come in and out of consciousness, essentially. Almost like you've got a concussion or something.
That's insane.
But this happened like half a year ago, and it actually, I don't have PTSD or anything from it, but it is very traumatic for me. And when I explain the whole story, it does bring horrid feelings. So I'd like to not pursue this story, if you don't mind. But I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Absolutely not. It's pure torture. That's all I can say.
One time I was vaping real heavily, and I thought that I saw like a dragon on this glass window on this building, and I kind of felt like it was a satanic entity or something. But after I went inside and prayed, it was gone. And I've never really seen it again.
Yeah, those are these like spooky kinds of moments that got me to reevaluate my relationship with God. Very, very schizophrenic, spooky moments that yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about white people being lost Israelite tribes, like literally the lost Israelites?
Whoa, is this Mormonism? Oh, this British Israelism kind of stuff. I think it's kind of like, I think a lot of people can't discern that the ancient Israelites from yore in the Bible are obviously not the same type of Jew that the modern Jews are. So I think a lot of people can't reconcile their anti-Semitic feelings with their love of Christ, and it leads them to say shit like that. But I think the obvious answer is that a lot of Jews today are just like not descendants of the actual Israeli people, but probably conversos that the ancient Israelites converted from the Canaanites, probably pretty much. And that's why they kind of suck. That's my theory. That's my schizo theory.
That's possible.
But
I don't think they're Khazars, because they don't look like Turks. They look like Mediterranean.
No, well, the whole Khazar thing is well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of a meme, but the whole Khazar thing, it's got some truth. The Khazars were real, but they also kind of weren't, and they did control that whole Silk Road area, which is kind of a Jewy thing to do. But at the end of the day,
yeah, it is.
The Khazars, the Jewish nobility and the Khazars, they didn't really stay Khazars. They very quickly moved into Poland and such because they were by sort of conforming to Judaism, in a way, it bleached them a little bit, and they went from being like Turkic pagans to being like, sort of acceptable for them to come into Europe by some, republics like Venice who, were into that money, that whole money thing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the whole Khazar thing is it's sort of like one of these esoteric explanations, just like the whole Nazi UFO thing. Where I feel like some of it might be rooted in truth, but a lot of it is just like straight bull. And it's sort of like this added on mythos that like people, this is the immortal enemy or something like this. I don't think it's totally true.
Yeah, I think that only 14% of Ashkenazis have actual Turkic Khazar ancestry. So they're mostly Mediterranean and European. And overwhelmingly Southern European. And Levantine, of course.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but there's this woman on TikTok who is like popular, like the Hotep people that are like the black supremacists, like we were the ancient pharaohs. There's this Jewish woman, and she's very popular with these Hotep people. Hold on.
Hey, what's up,
Ghost?
Forge Gang! Oh, go ahead, Hoplite.
Well, and I was just saying, there's this like fat, dumpy Jewish woman from TikTok, and she does these like these crazy conspiracy theories with their own mythos, and it's about how the Roman Empire is fake history, and it was made up by the Spanish Empire to oppress the Jews. What do you think about that, Warhammer?
That's literally incredibly insane. The Roman Empire did exist. Like, how would have Western Latin Christendom came about with the Franks and Charlemagne and like the conversion of Western Europe in the Dark Ages? How could that have happened? When there had just been barbarians before, without the Roman Empire.
Yeah. It was a grand scheme. It was a grand scheme by the Habsburgs here too. Well, it's a secret plot. It's a secret plot, Warhammer. We've been fighting the wrong enemy this entire time. We just had to trust the plan and listen to our Jewish allies, our Jewish friends, and our Jewish heroes, and trust the plan and stop these evil the Spanish Inquisition. It's coming to kill us, and we didn't listen. Klaus Schwab is Spanish. I don't know if you've heard about this, but
do y'all think Shaggy's gonna stream?
I hope. I love Shaggy. I want only the best for Shaggy. I want him to prosper, but he's been taking L's all fucking 2 weeks now.
I thought that was funny.
Trying to get my stuff together. I would do a little game stream for a little bit, but probably not too long here. Let's see.
Okay, is it going to be Kakarot or some wrestling game?
No, bro. It's going to be Heavy Rain. That Heavy Rain game that I've been playing. So, like, it'll actually be like, like it won't just be a game. Like, you'll physically see me playing the game,
Awesome. Well, I'll see you later.
And you can there'll be points in the game where I have like decisions I gotta make, and then I ask the chat to make a decision.
Dude, have you ever played Until Dawn? That's another one you can do with that whole interactive thing.
I have
Until Dawn.
That game's actually sick. I've played through it like 5 times. It's actually a good game. It's but you should check that out. It's made by the same people who did Heavy Rain and Between Two Souls and Detroit Become Human. It's one of those games where you can choose what the outcome.
Yeah, bro. I'll definitely check out. What's it called? Until Dawn.
Yeah, Until Dawn. It's like.
All right. Yeah.
It's good. It's chill. It's good.
Because I've played Detroit Become Human. I'm gonna play that one next whenever I finish Heavy Rain.
Yeah, Detroit Become Human had a lot of hype, but
Yeah, it's super woke. Like it's so
Yeah.
silly. It's so silly.
it's super woke, but I looked past that, played it, but the whole like it's just jokes. It's just jokes.
Yeah, it's straight jokes, bro. For real, it is. Like it's just hilarious. But yeah, so I'll just get my stuff together.
I read the Book of Mormon.
Hey, let's go!
Let's go.
Let's go.
What is the game about?
Heavy Rain, bro. It's made by David Cage and Quantic Dream, I think, is the name of the studio. Or, you know, that's the studio that made Heavy Rain. And, yeah, it's just a really good game, bro.
Yeah, that one's good. That I played that game and like this is gonna show maybe how young or how old I am, but I played that game on PS3 in like 2012, and I remember all I remember from that game is him going, Sean.
And you know what's so crazy is that people wanted a Heavy Rain 2. Like, people were like, you gotta make a sequel to the car. No, it's a standalone game. I never make a sequel to it. They never did.
Gotta show you all my receipts here for 2019.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that game was such a hit. I mean, that game is actually part of what made PewDiePie famous.
I drive
And
2019.
he got like the most views back in the day from basically playing that. And they made a sequel that wasn't a sequel, and it's called Between Two Souls. And it was also low. And it
God doesn't have any power over here, man.
Mr. Ellen Page, you know? You know what I'm talking about?
Overcome evil, man. Evil's taking us all over, man.
Elliot Page, Juno, who's now a transgendered man. Oh, dude. But,
yeah.
But, that was like, I'm getting technical errors from you, man. I'm sorry. I can hear you.
What's up?
Oh, it's all good, bro.
I was just looking at Southern Israelites' new vehicle.
I'm lagging. It's my connection, bro.
Well, you know, I'm not gonna criticize for it. But yeah, and that game was like super woke by like 2013 standards, and just like nobody played it. And then Until Dawn came out, and that game was like actually pretty fire. Like I said, I've played through it like 20 times or something. But it's like, it's by David Cage. Check out Until Dawn. It's straight fire. It's by David Cage, but it's not preachy like Detroit Become Human. It's like, they go to this cabin, and there's a slasher guy trying to murder them. And then there's like a psychoanalyst guy, and you talk to the psychoanalyst guy, and he's like a German mad scientist, and he's like, you better tell me your fears, child. I don't know.
I'll definitely check it out, bro. But I'll talk to y'all later. Maybe I'll see you in chat or something on the stream.
Yeah.
So
look, it's late. You know, I got
later.
You know, Forge.
Later, Ghost.
But I gotta go.
Forge gang.
Forge Christ.
Are you from California? Okay. Well, that's it. I think we're done with that. All right, I'll read the comments. Dude, that was really good. It kind of got off, but that was really good. All right. Yep, exactly, except with economy cars. Dude, Drake Shelton with that stupid freaking video. That is such a cope. I'm going to watch that right now. Hold on a second. Where is that video at? History. Yeah, receipts on my car. The receipt on my car. I wasted the prime of my youth on you people. I wasted the prime of my youth.
Some derelicts want to try to deflect from my...
What happened to Neats?
Some derelicts want to try to deflect from my receipt, saying that I drive a minivan.
Some derelicts are trying to say that I don't really drive this car. That I drive a Uber Eats mini car, bro.
Got to show you all my receipts here, my beautiful 2019 Toyota Camry. And, let me turn. Yeah, so, I drive it.
I made some money off of sex trafficking, man. And now I got a 2019 Toyota Cambria. Yeah.
2019 Toyota Camry.
Camry.
LE. Beautiful, luxurious vehicle.
Yeah, good job selling out to the globalists.
Drake, you have to sell out in order to make it, man.
You did sell out.
God
bro.
doesn't have any power over here, man. There's no way.
No, God does have power over modern society. That's a cope, bro.
Drake, you can overcome evil, man. Evil's taking us all over, man. We're victims. We're special victims.
My victim who's
in the New Testament about no temptation is taking you, but such as is common to man. No, Drake. Drake, we're special victims.
What is that New Testament passage he quoted?
No temptation is taking you, but such as is common to man. No, Drake.
Okay, no temptation. No temptation is taken to you. Scripture. All right, let's see. The scripture here, what he's quoting. First Corinthians 10:13. There hath no temptation taken you, but such is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. So, no temptation has overtaken you except such as is common to man. So the common sinful man, the unsaved, unrepentant man, loves to worship mammon and is, taken into sex, drugs, property, debt, Yeah, you have money, there's no doubt, but how much debt have you accumulated with this newfound wealth?
Drake, we're special victims. What we're living in is nothing like anyone's ever had to live for before. There's no way to be successful. How many more receipts y'all need? It's just sad. These guys, the stuff they tell them. But they tell themselves. But you know what? I'm more than happy to refute everything they say, line by line, day by day.
So this guy's a self-acclaimed professional gambler.
And I'm not going away. And all that shaming language, it's not going to work. I'm going to make a video.
You went away before, asshole.
On that shaming language here in a minute. All their shaming techniques to make me go away. What am I doing?
I'm Spartacus. He's Spartacus. We're all Spartacus.
Receipts. Just receipts. Solutions for your problems. Eliminating every excuse that you have.
Being a professional gambler does not make you the greatest teacher to have ever lived. Okay? Nikola Tesla did far more for the world than you ever will, Drake Alden Shelton, my man. You're the one that's coping. Like, I saw what Reformed Stoics said. Yeah, well, there's not that many people to mooch off of me, and you can just let your channel grow on your own merits, and then like, this is the receipt of my 2019 Toyota Camry, man. I am the greatest educator in the world, and I have found all the solutions to all the modern day problems, man. Yeah, right. You're full of shit. LOL owned. LOL, I'm not Drake. Why did somebody say that Jotaro was Drake? I don't think Drake has grasped the concept of prestige vehicles. Yeah, he definitely hasn't. Chris McCombs gang. Chris McCombs owning Drake Alden Shelton. Perfidious Lord of Alchemy, I'm so envious of you, bro. Drake Alden Shelton feeling the heat and getting hot in. Let's go. SI claims to almost been killed by a line cook named Chris at Perkins. Claimed he pulled a knife on him because he was envious of SI. Wow, dude, that's crazy. With Drake's credit, I'm sure he's getting a sweet deal on his car note. He is, bro. His best buddy should be BTW was also named Chris McCombs. He apparently threatened him with a blade, Silat, and ripped off his gambling system with friends like that. What the world, dude? A brand new Camry at only a bi-weekly payment of $500. Drake's like, jackpot, let's go. Yeah, I guarantee you that he got a sales deal. He probably used honey and used like a what is that, like a barcode or something. What are those things called with honey codes? Yeah, what he probably did was he used a coupon code with honey to get a cheaper vehicle. You know, I was talking to a guy named Anderl, and he says that there's guys in his service that do auto resells all the time, and he says that people are always making 100K or 100 grand or 100K all the time with auto resells, and it's generally not considered that much of a money or an income to make in a year. Rick and Drake reconciliation will happen one day. Maybe so. I have always been very amenable with Drake Shelton, and yet he cruelly spurned my hand of friendship. I have not been quite right since. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I would never try to be friends with that asshole, ever. Drake made an entire video on how McCombs was envious of him. Apparently a woman in his building preferred Drake, etc. Oh, really? And on to the Pink Hat Salat. The Pink Hat Salat. Well, my counterclaim is that Drake is, well, jealous of me. Well, of course he's jealous of you. Video incoming. Let's go. Oh yeah, that was that retarded vehicle registration, like proof of crap with receipts and stuff. I wonder if he can even, does he have car insurance with that crap, dude? Maybe we'll have a similar situation to what happened with Mormon Shaggy, and God will punish the Southern Israelite by putting his vehicle on fire like what happened to Mormon Shaggy, maybe. Now he's claiming Chris was a line cook at Perkins. Putin was, I suspect that behind this apparent multipolar geopolitical activity will eventually perceive the emergence of a hidden unilateral globalist consolidation. Oh, you said that the world is controlled by a synarchy between the Gnostics, the Antinomian, and the the antinomian and the, holy shit, dude, I can't remember all this stuff. Antinomian and apostate Gnostics and the Hermeticists. And the Jesuits represent the Gnostic side, whereas the Satanic and occults represent the Hermeticist side of it. Putin was a WEF young global leader after all. I think these current maneuverings are predominantly theater. They basically are. There's not going to be a third world war. Not right now anyways. There might be later in a decade or something. Fahrenheit 451, that's my vast archive, is all hard Norman copies! Library, series, film, video games, etc. All hard man copies! Yeah, Drake, well, nobody likes me too much. So by your metric, I'm markedly superior to you, lols. Yeah. It's remarkable when people speak of things when they literally know zero history, ha. The hammer thus descendeth. Boom! Shakalaka, baby, let's go. Smear! Seen the new Drekion vid? Yeah, I just saw it, buddy. Alright, let's see here. I'm gonna watch now. This is a good stream. This guy is a good compliment to Warhammer. Yeah, his name was Hoplite Official. AK-47 Nazi design, late war, M262. Yes, the Soviet AK-47 was based on the German ME or Measure 262. Real Moonraker hours. Let's go. Dax the Moonraker was a eugenicist that was planning to breed a master race. Yeah, well, it probably would have been extremely inbred and would have had a lot of recessive, weak genetic components, so it probably might not have been a good idea. Classic SI smug laugh in the first minute. Oh, and the video that he made? Man, I'm glad we shamed Southern Israelite back into full-time YouTube content creation. Dude, could you imagine coming back, reinstating your YouTube channel, and doing streams and uploads just because of what someone else streams and a few Instagram posts? That is such a cope, bro. That is a real cope. That's really pathetic. Shaming tactics nationalism. Dude, we're all about smearing and fudging up Drake Shelton around here. We're proud Christian neats and derelicts up in here, bro. It's better than whatever kind of Gnostic Joachimite Talmudic agenda he's got. All because of the sandwich video, LOL. Oh, what did Reformed Stoic do on the sandwich video? Dude, Reformed Stoic is such a master when it comes to humor. He is a master at it. And somehow he finds a way to, like, piss people off with his humor. And it works, and he owns them. He totally owns them with that, dude. I don't know how he does that. Yes, unironically, imagine if this night was topped off with a smear stream. Mend the adrenaline positions, me boys. I may debut my YouTube streaming career showcasing my limited edition Cool Blue N64 smugness ensues. Yeah, dude, why don't you stream? Why don't you video game stream, Rick Perry? I say that all of us become streamers. Like, Reformed Stoic and some other guys were the inspiration for me to become a live streamer. Adrenochrome levels of OD proportions. Yes. Got a shot of adrenaline just thinking about it. Dude, I get adrenaline every time Southern Israelite mentions me, bro. I feel so excited. Let's go. Drake rapper mean prestige vehicles, no way. Limited edition retro consoles. Oh, yes. Yeah, I would rather have a retro game console than some sort of a new, irrelevant Italian or Japanese-made vehicle. Dude, Drake can't even get a Lamborghini. Like, Lamborghini is what the master super Nove rich buy, dude. Drake with that Toyota is such a Novu rich type. I'm beginning to suffer from severe dopamine depletion since Drake's return has triggered my adrenal responses, so. Dude, that's hilarious, bro. Yeah, I was suffering severe dopamine depletion when Southern Israelite returned as well. He's just not the same as the old SI. Like, him threatening to get into a fight with Red's Rhetoric in Florida, that was really much better compared to this shit. Smug Stream SS, let's go! Forge Gang. Forge Gang! Hey, what's up, Xander Luciano? Sorry I've been away a while. I was working on a new server, but MomPap sold it for rock. Damn, bro. Just like how Crick Rock Chris sold off his television set for a rock of coke. Damn, bro. What's wrong with MomPatch? I would if I wish. Why am I no longer a Janny? Warhammer, sir. Warhammer, sir. Alright, I'll turn you back into a mod. I thought you were collaborating with Burger Boy and Pimpin' Pat to turn me into a lol cow. I'm sorry, bro, okay? Sometimes my analyses are not always right. Obviously, you're not working with Burger Boy or Music Biz Marty to, like, make people into lol cows. I get that. You're just a content creator. You're a fellow guy that's interested in Ethan Rolfe. And, you know, there's a lot of Ethan Rolfe fans and Ethan Rolfe haters around here, bro. I get it. The tribes were shifted throughout the nations, and that's about it. British Israelitism was just a Victorian LARP. Yeah, I think so too. They built that up, you know, to find a way to demonstrate legitimacy in the Christian church for the British Empire, for the large British Empire and the Pax Britannica. Later they shifted to social Darwinism and natural selection to explain why whites deserve to be masters and have an empire over the colored races. It would be... What's going on here? It would be great if we all pull our time and contribute to a video, something along the lines of, I'm Spartacus! Or maybe not! But instead, all of Southern Israelites' adversaries repeat the line, I'm jealous of SI. Yeah, aka stupid idiot. Slideshow format. I'm Rick Perry, and I'm jealous of SI. It could be a movement to rival Alcoholics Anonymous. Maybe so, bro. I'm Warhammer, and I am so mad and jealous of Southern Israelite and his accomplishments, man. We have to humor his delusions, lol. Yeah, dude, I'm so jealous of Southern Israelite. I'm so jealous of all of these amazing books that are so popular and so successful. You know, it's not like he's had to beg for money because of how so undersold his work and contributions are. Southern Israelite is such an accomplished journalist in alternative studies. He's such an accomplished book author. Oh yeah, I'm so jealous of that. Hello, sir. Can I join Forge Gang? Shout the word, brother, and you can be in Forge Gang! Shout it loud and shout it proud, baby! Norman Forge Hardmen! Forge Norman Hardmen! Join Forge Gang, brother! ideologies aside, the controlling network is basically just mercantilism. The Jesuits have just been subverted into their cause. I know that, dude, I know from studying the Jansenists, Rick Perry, that the ideas of the Jacobins and the French and American revolutions derive from the Jansenists. The Jesuits were actually royalist reactionaries, or Catholic royalist reactionaries, that didn't really necessarily support the French Revolution and the overthrow of the monarchy. It was actually the Jansenists that supported republicanism. So it's really just all secular, non-religiously aligned mercantile orders. And a lot of these same mercantile orders supported the Reformation too. Hermeticism and Gnosticism are basically synonymous. Ideologies are just employed to justify the mercantilists' policies. The globalist corporate hegemony is where the buck stops. Yeah, I get that. Basically so. So really, the origins of this globalist mercantile order is from the late 18th century. It's from the late 1700s. This is when, like, the strong Roman Catholic, feudal reactionary, and Protestant monarchy philosophies and stuff died out and waned away in the face of classical republicanism. Right? But yeah, so Hermeticism and Gnosticism are really not taken literal by the dominant elites. They just use that to indoctrinate the subservient servants below them that succumb to these ideologies and create these kind of fatalistic, fanatic types that follow and succumb to these ideas. But the elites themselves do not really subscribe to these ideas. They're just basically free thinkers that are looking to make money and cash in on the corporate globalism. Hermeticism equals the mystery cults of antiquity. Neoplatonism and Gnosticism. Gnosticism equals Gnosticism, Neoplatonism, and mystery cults. So they all basically have the same origins in a pre-Christian and pre-biblical setting of these ideas that came out of the Ogdoad and the Greco-Egyptian traditions and stuff. So these Hellenic mystery traditions and Eastern mystery traditions were subverted and coerced and put into the church. And they were purposefully put into there, but the feudal church reversed a lot of what Constantine was trying to do with bringing paganism into the church. And actually, the Western feudal church was puricist and was actually trying to abide by an apostolic Augustinian creed, basically. And so, like, these Hermeticists and Neoplatonists, they all follow a fairly common line. Like, there's different orders and there's different ideas and different degrees and different varieties, but they all follow a common capitalist or mercantile motive, basically. And they've really succeeded from the late 1700s to subvert Western civilization, is what you're saying. They're all identical except a difference of emphasis on proportions. Kabbalah is identical except its grounding in Judaism precluded it from incorporating the mystery cult elements. Yeah. So Judaism was basically an aspect of monotheism that the Gnostics could take over and manipulate. They could actually manipulate and use Judaism as a brand of monotheism to support and spread globalism with a satanic purpose. But in reality, they're grounded in pagan mystery cults, and they're not monotheistic or even really Judaic in any sense or any way. And most of these guys are Gentiles. So, but dude, didn't Rockefeller and the Ashton family, what is it? What are they called? The Jacobs, the Ashtons, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, they all read these Grim Wars, these Grim Wars, and they all read like the Kabbalah and the Grim Wars and the Necromancer and Hermes Trismegistus and all this ideology and stuff. The Jesuits were okay until the late 1700s. Okay, so they were really just focused on pushing the Counter-Reformation and trying to undo the Protestant Reformation, basically, but also trying to reform Catholicism along what St. Ignatius Loyola wanted. And then they just became a mercantile order themselves. Xander Luciano, Warhammer, thank you. I almost gave up, or I was drunk on PLB. Yeah, you're welcome, bro. You're welcome. Sorry about that. I thought that you were giving in to what Burger Boy was saying about me and stuff, and you know, I do get mad sometimes, and I do get a little bit tense and get a little bit out of line, but I'm not like what he says, mentally ill or any of that crap. He's working for an agenda. Burger Boy and most of these Bitwave guys, they follow Ganville, Xander. The J-Danks army was formed out of Ganville's DX server, and they're basically just following whatever Ganville says, or like they followed after what Ganville does. And like Ice Poseidon, that's where they're getting their stuff from. They're coming from Ganville and the Ice Poseidon stuff, and they're really terrible at doing it too. They're basically a horrible knockoff of the of Ganville and DX. The papacy was total subverted by 1869, the First Vatican Council. You know, didn't the Pope actually support the Confederacy? And then right after the end of the Confederacy in 1865, all of a sudden the Kingdom of Italy is formed and the Vatican is taken over. And you know, Abraham Lincoln and the cause of the Union in the Civil War, in keeping the Union together, was a lot the same as the Risorgimento in Italy. Abraham Lincoln and, what's his name? The guy that led the Risorgimento thing, they shared a lot of common ideas and a lot of common ideologies. Abraham Lincoln was a big fan of the Risorgimento and the nationalist ideologies of the Italian unificators. At Warhammer, if you ever need good code, that Janny tools, let me know. I need to sleep for now. Good night. Good night, Xander, bro. Oh, it's a shame what happened to Bitwave, bro, but it just seems like it was just doomed to not really grow up too big. You know, it was poisoned. The wells were poisoned early on for Bitwave. And too many subversives, you know, just shut the site down. Too many trolls and shit posters. And it ruined it for the content creators on Bitwave. They take their ideology seriously, and that day all devolve into nihilism and deconstructionism. Are you talking about perennialism or perennialist philosophy? Ultimately, their ideology is their hidden metaphysique that tended to literally no ideology. So basically, they're just subversive nihilists. Or subversive nihilistics. That's very interesting. They're just basically really subversive nihilists that want to basically break and disorientate and deconstruct with perennialism or perennialist teachings. Hence, the conversion away from Platonism and away from Newtonian physics and special mechanics to relative, Einsteinian physics and theoretical relativity, special relativity and general relativity of Einstein, as part of this agenda that they've been pushing for the last 100 or so years, if not even more. We're seeing the fruits of Hermeticism and Gnosticism today. We're heavy into the deconstructionist endgame now. R.E., the rejection of reality. Yeah, this idea about cat genders and this idea about there not being any kind of real gender whatsoever, and that there's no such thing as real defined gender, and just really a pure rejection of reality and acceptance of escapism into like virtual reality and VR and stuff. All their ideologies end up in the sewers of nihilism and deconstruction and chaos at the end of the day. So basically, it's a recreation of the dark world that resulted in the fall of Lucifer, right? Because in the 19th century, some of these young Earth creationist Victorians said that before the 7 days of creation, there was this dark, evil, watery world that was controlled by the dark creations of Satan that resulted from the fall of Lucifer, and that the 7 days of creation happened after the Lucifer rebellion. And so basically, these servants of Satan want to return back to that dark, antediluvian world that existed before the 7 days of creation, but after the Luciferian fall. Italy and the Vatican papacy seems to have been centralized at around the same time period, and centralization is a prerequisite for globalization. Yeah, so I mean, for example, in the Middle Ages, there were all sorts of different monastic orders, or monastic orders and groups that might have been or might not have been affiliated with the Bishop of Rome. And he was actually, the Pope only started off as a bishop. There is an equal Bishop of Rome, a Bishop of Antioch, a Bishop of Jerusalem and Alexandria and Constantinople. And the Bishop of Rome, the Archbishop of Rome, was just but one of many. And like the early church was very decentralized. Even in the Middle Ages, like there was different bishoprics and different episcopacies and stuff. And even in medieval England, for example, there was actually private duchies inside the Kingdom of England in the 1200s. So like with the enclosures and industrialization and the rise of these mercantile globalist empires and systems, you know, this all ended. This was all removed and replaced with these new corporations and centralized organizations and agencies. Medieval feudalism was premised on provincialism. Centralization, like Babel, has been the central theme of the city of man since Cain. Yeah, Cain went to the land of Nod and built a city. He was literally the first man in the Bible to build a city. The arbitrary nature of perennialism moved into relativism and then on to nihilism, and finally deconstructionism. When did the perennialists begin? In the 19th century or earlier in the 17th or the 18th century? It's just literally insane what happened to Europe. Europe was such a heavily intellectual center, and then just literally the Europeans allowed themselves to be destroyed. Just exactly like the Greeks and the Romans and other Mediterranean people did. They allowed their civilizations to self-decompose. And the Europeans in the 20th century, they allowed themselves to fall into chaos and war and armaments competition, and like Germany and Britain and France and Spain and Italy and Scandinavia, they basically just invaded each other and tore each other up with a totalitarian system and with communism and fascism. And all of the top brass intellectuals and teachers and academics went to the United States, and went to Princeton University and went to Harvard and stuff. And like Oxford and Harvard were very high academic institutions. And like all these guys in Oxford, they went to America, and they contributed, like Einstein. Einstein would have never became an American citizen. He would have stayed in Germany for the rest of his life and continued to invent theoretical concepts, but the Nazis ensured that he would go to America. All of these anti-fascist German and Austrian scientists and people from other parts of Europe and Russians that came to America and contributed to space technology and to rocket science and to military tech and other high-tech industries. It's incredible, dude. Did you know that the first video game console was invented by a German Jew? That his parents left the Weimar Republic, and came to America in the 1920s. And he was the father of the first video game console ever. It's just incredible, dude, how all of this happened. And now America is going to decompose like what happened to Europe in the last century. The big perennialist push in relatively recent times began at the behest of Giovanni de' Medici, trying to incorporate Hermeticism into the deposit of faith. The Episcopal College prevented. I see. And the Borgias, and basically the Borgias kicked these people out of Italy. Like the Borgia popes chased these people out. The Medici people out of Florence. It migrated north and west. Oh, to France, Germany, and England, basically. To England, France, and Germany. And then they became the main centers. Interesting. Yeah, it's really incredible, dude. Well, I think that's going to be it. It was a great stream. So this was the geopolitical analysis of California. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll go ahead and put up an outro music. I might start up another stream again, but I think that this is pretty much made it past its thing here. What would be a good outro thing? California. You know what? I want to watch this first. What is this crap? The 4 shaming techniques of Christian derelicts. What is this garbage? I'll watch this after the thing. Let's see here.